Welcome back to episode 5 of the Seen It All podcast. We are back with the duo. Jacob and Yordi is in the house.
Yes, sir. What? Happy Tuesday.
Yordi, how's your week going?
Hi, it's going pretty good. I just got back from Tucson, Arizona. Wonderful place, beautiful. And I've just been having fun. I got a little game night tonight with some of my friends. You wouldn't know them. They go to a different school. Jacob and I are hanging. I've been doing good though. How's your week going?
It's been going good. Just busy with school and life things.
I bet you can't wait to be done with the school part and just have that job. Even it sounds like a lot still, but balancing school and work and life versus working life is a lot different.
But hey, everybody is balancing something,
Right. And speaking of balancing, you know who balances one of the best cinematography selections of all time?
I don't know. Can you tell me?
This is guy Christopher Nolan.
I've heard a couple of his movies.
Yeah, really. I'd like to know some of your favorites if you want to introduce what we're doing.
Yeah. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Man, you already got to go through our favorite Christopher Nolan movies. Join us for the episode. All right, Yordi. So we're going to talk about, obviously, Christopher Nolan, as you alluded to just a second ago. Obviously, a world-renowned director, been around for a while, produced some really major box office hits. And today as we prepare for another chapter of his releases in the Odyssey this year, I figured we'd go ahead and talk about personally our top 3 movies of his that he has directed. So I guess you can go ahead and start. Then they don't have to be in order. We can do a top 3, and then we can do maybe a one that's possibly like overrated in your opinion.
Yeah, I like that. We'll see how we finish it out. I'd like to throw in this disclaimer because I know it goes for both of us.
Yeah,
we're gonna exclude the GOAT, the best, undeniable. You could talk about it. You can have an whole episode talking about it. It's beautiful, wonderful, Interstellar.
Yeah. That I think everybody knows how, especially when somebody hasn't seen it before, and then they go watch it, and they're like, and they come back to you and they say, "Oh, that kind of movie changed my perspective on how movies should be made," or just kind of like a mind-boggling kind of movie and how it balances sci-fi with emotions and kind of takes you through this roller coaster throughout that. I think it's a long movie. It's like a two and a half hour movie, but like Yordi said, it's one of the best films of all time, and the fact that he didn't win an Oscar specifically for that movie shows.
Whoa, I don't even think I thought it did win. That's a travesty.
He won. Matthew McConaughey himself won one for Dallas Buyers Club, which came out in the same year. But I would have thought Interstellar would have been, toe for toe for that as well.
Yeah, crazy work. That's interesting.
For sure.
But yeah, I'll now that we got that disclaimer, GOAT movie, Interstellar, best. Not going to talk about it. It's amazing. I'll roll right in, and these aren't in any particular order. They're the movies of his that have struck me, and I think one of the beauties of Christopher Nolan is he's done a few different genres, especially going into this historical fiction with the Odyssey. And they've got a space or science fiction in Interstellar. I think one of my more favorite historical, it's fiction but more realistic historical fiction is Dunkirk. I've always been a really big fan of war movies. We've got Saving Private Ryan, we've got The Fury, we've got Hacksaw Ridge. I'm always captivated by those. I love those World War history pieces. I just think they're interesting. I think that time in history is something I love, which definitely plays into why I love this movie. But once again, having that theme, that topic with Christopher Nolan's style, the different perspectives of those involved in the operation going on with Dunkirk, traveling
Yeah.
across that channel and saving as many people pinned down. He was really good at capturing the emotion, the dread that you feel when you're trapped there, and you kind of feel that dread and feel trapped with the characters as well. The really interesting part where they have it a a sorry, I just got honked at and lost my train of thought. They That's crazy. Don't podcast and drive, kids. Where they have a captured German on one of the boats who is also just kind of caught up and escaping in the mess. That itself plays into an interesting, like, kind of thematic role where it's what to do with that enemy aboard a place full of allies going to an allied place. I think it's not some
Yeah.
dramatic piece of war and demolition, but it offers something different too with the perspective of war. There's still a little action, there's still little scenes, um, but it
Yeah.
delivers a message with an interesting war story. And that's why I'm giving it up to Dunkirk.
Yeah.
But how are you feeling, Jacob? What about you? What's some of your random movies you got for Christopher Nolan?
Well, before I say my first one, I will say, what was your opinions on him casting Harry Styles? Obviously, at the time, like he didn't really have any acting, like, background or anything like that. So, do you think like he added to the story, knowing like you didn't know how he acted or what he portray, or I guess just like what he brought to the table as an
Yeah,
actor? You know?
yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I know that kind of keys into the upcoming movie Odyssey and all the kind of news and
Yeah.
outburst about Travis Scott, which crazy, crazy. Um,
Crazy cameo.
but they, I think Harry Styles, for what it was worth, he played his role. I just thought it was very interesting. I maybe could have. There's
I
nothing
believe that
wrong
was
with it.
his first major role.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with
Yeah,
it, but it just felt
that's
like a
fair.
little bit strange.
Yeah.
And that might be my own fault just
So
seeing
for
a
me, my
star.
first movie, like, um, for my first movie, I watched this just a couple days ago, and I'm gonna say Insomnia, with Robin Williams and Al
Whoa.
Pacino, and I hadn't really listened or heard of this movie prior to, a couple days prior to watching it, and um, it was better than I thought. I believe this is the only movie Christopher Nolan didn't write, but he directed. Um, I thought the character choices with I think it's is it Hilary Swank or Emily Swank, whichever. She's in that movie. Um, you've got, yeah, Al Pacino, Robin Williams. I think it balances that kind of thriller, and also crime. It deals with emotions, obviously insomnia. So you're going in thinking like, okay, this is going to play some type of role within the plot.
Yeah,
But I
was there
think
insomnia in that movie?
just a tad, you see how it's these two LA agents like who go to Alaska for this killing of this teenage girl, or this teenage girl that goes missing, and you kind of go into depth, and something crazy happens to the cops, and where um he's kind of driven himself mad alongside with, like, at that time of the year where Alaska doesn't get dark, so he doesn't sleep for 2 weeks while he's out in Alaska, on top of the case, on top of what else is happening, and trying to balance all that, and you kind of see somebody on the brink of completely losing their mind when the cop, I or a FBI agent, is supposed to keep his cool, and supposed to be kind of level headed, but you see him kind of lose control at the end. But I think that movie is up there for me after that. I'm surprised I hadn't watched it before, but if anybody who hasn't seen Insomnia, I highly recommend. It's always good. Would I recommend it, like, paying for it? Probably not. Um, but I do think it is free on Prime as of right now. That could change, obviously, but Yeah, that's my first number one or that's just one of my top 3 movies.
Yeah, and you've honestly, we've spoken about it. I haven't seen that movie, but you've made it really intriguing, and I think my wife and I are definitely going to be trying to view that really soon. What streaming service is that on?
I think it's on Prime. I could be wrong. Um, it I'm sure by now you probably have to pay for it because I feel like those movies change in and out on what's, you know, what you have to pay for, what you don't have to pay for, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, right. That might be a good episode next time. Is what
Yeah,
streaming services are worth it?
that's I'm sure a lot of people would tune into that.
Yeah, I'll pin that one away. Just thinking out loud here, but I'm gonna go ahead and roll over into my next one. Uh, Covered Dunkirk. We're going right to Memento. That movie,
Mm,
very early. Um, it's kind of hard. I feel like me as a viewer personally, I have a difficulty watching some movies. Sometimes when they're just like, oh, these are old. I do. I'll be transparent about it. That's an
yeah,
issue I have. But that being said, with that kind of like setback for this movie, I enjoyed this movie. That should tell you how good this movie is. I thought once again it was a master class of storytelling, not from different perspectives, but almost different perspectives in time. Jump cutting and kind of building a narrative in reverse.
yeah, hmm
Um, I think that was just so fun, captivating, and different that it made a difference. It wasn't about it. Once again, I think this is like the beauty of Christopher Nolan. Maybe with that Harry Styles casting you just mentioned or Travis Scott, I couldn't
yeah,
even tell you the main actor in this movie, and I don't think that really mattered. The story was
yeah,
enough to keep me going, and
mm,
it just is plain and simple as that. If you're looking for something that is a different viewing experience, a different story, Memento's your option.
yeah,
Um, yeah, not even gonna
I,
talk. I think it's just worth the clean view. Not even gonna go into the details.
yeah,
It's just something different, and it's something different I enjoyed.
yeah. I've seen like clips of Christopher Nolan like explaining his kind of thought process of that plot where he like almost you get the end product in the beginning and you kind of get clips of how it leads up to that point. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun following like a treasure map, and you know what you were
Yeah.
looking for.
All right, my number 2. This one, I I will say this is one of the better um, kind of like magician movies besides the Now You See Me movies. But The Prestige, it's a 2006 movie, and obviously that's a 20-year-old movie now. But you've kind of followed these guys and these two magicians, and they're kind of competing, weaving in and out of people of each other's lives, and kind of like you said with Memento, this is Prestige is kind of a long movie, so I could get it if you want to break it up when you watch it. But this movie, like you almost get obsessed with the obsession of the two main actors that they have for each other, and me and Yordi were talking about it yesterday on how the Prestige kind of shows how far obsession can push somebody past their limits, can push somebody into a hole that they can't get out of. And I feel like with Prestige, it also had that point of magic to where if you're too focused and you're too obsessed on one thing of a magic trick, you're going to miss the whole trick entirely. And I think that came to fruition in the end uh, of that movie. I'm not going to talk too much about that movie, kind of like Memento. Um, I think that one is a high recommendation for me that isn't really talked about, obviously, because Christopher Nolan has way bigger box office movies. But I think The Prestige, if you like that magician's kind of like mystery thriller, um, I highly recommend The Prestige. And the two main actors are just great, and you know they carry um, that whole film. So I highly recommend The Prestige, and that's my second movie.
Yeah, Jacob, I agree with you. I think that obsession and missing the point of the trick, tying that back into like general themes of magic, was like wonderfully executed, really good. Movie is kind of long,
Yeah, very long
but I think it's enjoyable just as is. Magic's really cool, and it was a cool movie.
for
Uh,
sure.
and you know you've made it. They do a bit in Rick and Morty, and they talk about the Prestige. So that's how you know it's a good. That's a
That's how
good
you know you've
movie.
made it.
Yeah, 100%. But finally, my final movie. I talked about. It's kind of incredible going over this and us talking about the different genres that Christopher Nolan's able to capture.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, we touched on history and science, these thrillers. Um, Getting into the comic and superhero world, I know everyone was kind of waiting for this. Maybe The Dark Knight. Oh
Mm.
my goodness, what a movie! I feel like I don't even have to talk about it because people know it. Out of all the Christopher Nolan movies, I feel like people know The Dark Knight the most.
Yeah, that's fair.
Interstellar is great. Interstellar is a wonderful, well done movie, but Dark Knight is almost like iconic because the Batman.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
Batman and Heath Ledger's The Joker was just brilliantly done. The best Joker we've seen.
Yeah,
Um, so I don't even have to go into that much detail about the plot or anything. I just think it's everything every other superhero is trying to capture or be.
yeah,
I feel like Marvel and its filmography has gotten off track. It's kind of become a joke in some ways because some of these one-off movies it's like they're just turning out content for every single superhero,
for sure,
and
for
everything
sure.
becomes kind of the same. Where DC Comics and Christopher Nolan, you've got The Dark Knight, and it's just one really powerful, well done movie. If it
Yeah,
wasn't affiliated with Batman, if it was like another random superhero, but it was done with this like precision and will to make a great story out of it, it would have done just as
yeah,
well. Batman adds to it. Batman is wonderful, a great superhero, but I think um, out of a lot of superhero options, Dark Knight does it right for that too. I think that's just almost a testament in what we're seeing. Post Avengers Infinity War, what we're seeing, you know, DC doesn't even have much else. If you're looking at like Aquaman
yeah.
movie or whatever, what we're seeing,
Superman.
yeah, yeah, what we're seeing out of the superhero realm versus what Christopher Nolan was able to create
Yeah,
is just it's a big gap. It's a big gap,
yeah,
and I think that's just his ability. That's his strength to tell story. So I
for
got to go
sure.
with that. Super cool movie. Super cool.
Yeah, and Heath Ledger's, obviously R.I.P. He's was a very talented actor, and I feel like he, like you said, is the best Joker. I don't feel like anybody has brought that level of intensity to that character. Obviously, um, Phoenix did a good job in the Joker, but I think it, everybody's going to be looking back to Heath Ledger, years from now and be like, that guy was the Joker, you know? So,
And I'm gonna pass it off to you, Jacob, and say hey to my wife.
yes, sir. And then my final one, I'm going to do, let's see, Oppenheimer for me has made the list. And I think it is obviously it was a big summer for movies that came out um, alongside with Barbie. I think Oppenheimer to me, it was another long movie, especially for if you didn't like, science or you didn't like history, that movie is probably not a big, um, you know, enticing thing to go see, especially when that movie came out, like with Barbie and all that kind of stuff. But I think uh, the actors who were put in it, Matt Damon in it, obviously a lot of other big names who just really dove into the characters, really dove into the historical side of it. I think Robert Downey Jr. played a great role, and you see, I think Emily Blunt is in it as well, playing Oppenheimer or Miss Oppenheimer, and how she kind of handles people, associating them with the Communist Party, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, if you haven't seen Oppenheimer, I highly recommend. It is a little longer. I think the movie score of that movie is up there. For me, who's somebody who studies, I use that movie score soundtrack to study, just for music without lyrics and stuff like that. But I am going to talk about a movie. I don't know if Jordy has one that he thought was overrated, but for me, I'm going to say Inception. I know that's probably, a hot take. I understand the story, uh, but I almost felt like he made it too complex, to be enjoyable. Obviously, the visual effects of this movie are great, and Leonardo DiCaprio is an awesome actor. But I feel like that movie was almost too complex to understand it through one watch. I guess if you're wanting rewatchability, maybe because there's always stuff you may not understand. But to me, like if I was to see this in theaters, I would have been, really confused if I was only able to watch it that one time until it came out on streaming services, a couple months later. But yeah, my overrated movie is Inception for me.
Ditto that. That's all I got to say.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned for a future episode. Planning to go see Project Hail Mary, and we're going to try to do a review with some special guests, and we're excited about that. Go check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you have any recommendations, leave a comment. Until the next episode, you've seen it all.